They were all sitting in my living room. The one I had painted myself, twice. Once in 2009 when I moved in, and again in 2017 when I needed something to do with all the grief I could not speak out loud. My brother had his arms crossed. My mother had that look on her face, the one she reserves for when she has already decided something and is just waiting for the right moment to announce it. My sister-in-law was pretending to look at her phone. And my uncle, the one they had brought in like some kind of referee, cleared his throat and said, "This property is not legally yours." And just like that, 14 years of my life became a question mark. I did not scream. I did not cry. I just looked at all of them and thought, you have no idea what you have just started. Let me take you back. Because nothing about that moment made sense without everything that came before it. I was 29 years old when I signed the papers on that house. It was not a gift. It was not luck. It was 7 years of working double shifts as a cardiac nurse, 6 days a week, skipping vacations, skipping relationships, skipping every soft thing life tries to offer you when you are young and still capable of enjoying it. I had saved $83,000. I put $62,000 down. The rest was a 15-year mortgage I paid every single month without missing one payment. Not one. I have the receipts. I always kept the receipts. But here is what my family saw. They saw a single woman with a nice house and no husband. And in their world, that combination required explanation. My mother started it slowly, the way she starts everything. Small comments, questions wrapped in compliments. "Who helped you with this?" she would ask. "You did not do all this alone," she would say. At first, I thought she was just proud and fumbling with how to show it. Then I realized she genuinely believed a woman like me could not have built something this solid without a man somewhere in the background. She needed a man in the story. There was no man in the story. My brother Marcus moved back from Atlanta in 2018. He had a wife, 2 kids, and a business that had quietly failed in ways he never directly admitted. I offered them the downstairs guest suite for 3 months while they found their footing. 3 months became 8. 8 became 14. And somewhere in month 11, I overheard Marcus on the phone telling someone that he was basically running the house now. I stood in the hallway for a long time after that call ended. I did not go in. I just stood there and felt something shift inside me. Something cold and clarifying. The financial creep happened so gradually I almost missed it. Marcus started handling the lawn service because he said I was being overcharged. Then he started collecting the mail because he was usually home first. Then there was a conversation about how splitting utilities made more sense since they were living there anyway. I agreed because I am someone who believes in peace over conflict, and I had been trained since childhood to make room for everyone else before I made room for myself. I gave up a promotion in 2019 because the new position would have required travel and someone needed to be home while Marcus and Diane got settled. Told myself it was temporary. I was lying to myself. The manipulation reached a new level in 2020. My mother suggested that since the house was so large and I was, in her words, not using it fully, it might make sense to put Marcus on the deed. For security, she said. For the family, she said. I said no. Clearly, calmly, without apology. And from that moment forward something changed in how they all looked at me. There was a coldness. A distance. As if I had refused to donate a kidney. As if protecting what I had built was the same as attacking them. My brother stopped saying thank you. My mother started visiting less. My sister-in-law Diane began making little comments about the house, suggesting renovations, asking about resale value, talking about the neighborhood like she was calculating something. I noticed. I always notice. I just did not say anything yet. Then came the Sunday that broke me open. It was March, a cold one, and my mother had organized what she called a family dinner. Everyone was there. Cousins, aunts, my Uncle Raymond who I had not seen in 4 years. I should have known. You do not invite the extended family to a dinner without an agenda. Halfway through the meal, Marcus stood up. He actually stood up, like he was making a toast. And he said that he had been doing some research, that because he had been contributing to the household for nearly 3 years, that because certain financial arrangements had been made, that he believed he had grounds to claim an equitable interest in the property. He used those words, equitable interest. He had rehearsed it. My mother nodded like this was reasonable. My Uncle Raymond cleared his throat and started talking about family legacy and how these things should stay together. Diane did not look up from her plate. And I sat there, at my own table, in my own home, surrounded by people I had fed and sheltered and loved, and I felt something I can only describe as a door closing inside me, not slamming, just quietly, permanently closing. I excused myself. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror for a long time, and I made a decision. No tears, no confrontation, no explanations. I was going to be very, very quiet, and I was going to be very, very thorough. The next morning I called a real estate attorney. Her name was Sandra, and she had the kind of voice that made you feel like the truth was on your side before she even heard your story. I brought her everything. The original purchase documents, 7 years of mortgage statements, the deed in my name alone, every utility bill, every insurance payment, every receipt from every contractor I had ever hired. She looked at it all and she said, "You have nothing to worry about legally." But she also said, "Document everything going forward, everything." So I did. I installed a home management app that tracked every expense, every payment, every modification to the property. I opened a separate account and began quietly redirecting my direct deposit. I met with a financial advisor and restructured my assets in ways that were entirely legal and entirely invisible to anyone who was not paying the kind of attention I was now paying. I also started keeping a journal. Not emotional, factual, dates, times, statements made, witnesses present. I documented the morning Marcus told a neighbor that the house belonged to the family. I documented the afternoon Diane suggested to a contractor that she would be the one approving the renovation quote. I documented every instance of them presenting themselves as owners of something that was mine. I did not react. I just wrote it down. For 4 months I said nothing. I cooked dinner. I smiled at breakfast. I asked about the kids. I was present and warm and completely, ruthlessly prepared. Marcus thought he had won something at that family dinner. He had no idea he had. Simply handed me a reason to finish what I should have done much sooner. The moment of truth came in July. Marcus and Diane had invited a mortgage broker to the house. To my house, without telling me. I came home from a 12-hour shift to find a stranger sitting at my kitchen table with a laptop open and papers spread out. And Marcus was explaining that they were looking into refinancing options. The broker looked up at me and said, "Oh, are you the sister?" I said, "I am the owner." The silence in that room was something I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I asked the broker to leave politely. He left quickly. I set my bag down. I poured a glass of water, and then I placed on the kitchen table a folder I had prepared weeks earlier. Inside was a certified copy of the deed. A letter from my attorney. A formal notice that Marcus and Diane had 30 days to vacate the property. A second letter outlining that any claim of equitable interest would be contested and that I had 14 months of documentation proving sole ownership, sole financial contribution, and sole decision-making authority over the property. I also included a printed copy of every text message in which Marcus had referred to the house as his, and a recorded audio clip, legally obtained under single-party consent law in my state, of the conversation where Diane told the contractor she owned the home. Marcus looked at the folder. He looked at me. He said, "You would really do this to your own family," and I said, "You did this to yourself." Then I walked upstairs, took a shower, and slept better than I had in 4 years. The fallout was real, and I will not pretend otherwise. My mother did not speak to me for 5 months. My cousin group chat went quiet. There were versions of the story circulating in the family that made me the villain, the cold one, the one who put paperwork over people. Marcus and Diane found an apartment. It was smaller than what they had grown accustomed to, and I heard through various people that they were struggling. I felt that. I am not made of stone. But I also knew that if I had not drawn that line, I would have eventually lost not just the house but myself. My name, my years of work, future. My mother came back eventually. She came with a casserole and no apology, and I accepted both because I understand her limitations now in a way I could not before. We are not who we were. We are something more honest, which is harder and also better. Marcus and I have not spoken. I think one day we might, but only after he says the thing he knows he needs to say. I still live in my house. I repainted the living room this past spring, a deep warm terracotta that glows in the evening light. I sit in it alone sometimes and feel a kind of peace that is only possible when you have stopped performing safety and started actually living inside it. I did not lose anything I truly needed. I released what was taken from me quietly over years with a smile on his face. What I know now is this: love does not require you to surrender your name. Family does not get to rewrite your history because it is inconvenient for their plans. And the most powerful thing a woman can do when someone tries to erase her is not to scream. It is to go very still, to gather every piece of evidence, to build her case in silence, and then, in the calmest voice she has ever used, to simply tell the truth. Dignity is not something they can vote on. It belongs to you the way that deed belonged to me, signed, notarized, and entirely mine. If this story reached something in you, if it reminded you of your own quiet courage or your own moment of enough, please like this video and subscribe. Your presence here means more than you know.